library for this 2023-2024 academic year, and this one's called Bringing Closure to Your Library, to the library. So questions, we've got a couple of things prepared, but this is very chime in, ask questions, put them in the chat if you want. We are recording, and go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Christine Fielding. I am currently the librarian at middle school 6th, 7th, and 8th. Originally, though, in about 2003, I started out as a public librarian for children and teen services. I'm used to submitting reports, pretty much breaking down statistics as to actual attendance. Not necessarily circulation as much, but I wanted to know specifically what it is I could provide my administrator for a school library, because I'm not quite sure what they would need to support the administration for them to continue to support the library in their budget process. I'm wondering if there's like what it is that other people provide and what kind of format too.
So I guess I'll start with that one. I've been at several schools. I was at Litchfield High School teaching, and then for a short while as a librarian. Then I moved to Naugatuck High School, and I've been at Rumsey since 2010. So I'm just going to be letting people in too here. And when I came to Rumsey, I kind of looked at, I mean, this library needed a lot, and I sort of looked at what it needed, and then I created my reports based on what I needed. So at the time, I didn't have an assistant. I was a one-woman show. There were computer labs. I only had 4 computers in my library. So I would like shut down the library and go to a computer lab that was on a different part of our campus. And so I kept track of all of those statistics because I wanted to show the administration that the library was I was having to close it down because there was no adult in here. So closing the library so I could teach in other spaces. So really think about like what is important, what are your goals, what's your mission, and then kind of create your reports accordingly. So, and the way that I did my reports, I would use Animoto, like an old video. I mean, it's still around, but now I use Canva. And I definitely kept attendance statistics because I wanted them to see how many students were using the library. So I would just have paper, whatever works for you. If you've got, a digital way of doing that and it's easy, great. But I really thought about what were my, kind of long-term goals for the library. And it did take a long time. It took a few years for me to get an assistant for 9 hours a week. And that's not much, but I was like, okay, great. And I kept doing my thing and doing all the programs and everything. And they were just like, oh my gosh. And now I have an assistant 20 hours a week. And I'm not saying that will happen in every school system. I'm in a private school. But, you may get shot down when you ask for things. And there were several years that I asked for things. Like I said, I came to a library with 4 computers in it. How do you teach information literacy with 4 computers? And then I did some fundraising and raised money to get 8 iPads. And so we did shared, this is back in like 2012, so we had shared iPads. And then, so think about and then design your end of year report accordingly, like based on what your needs are. And those needs may change, and that's okay too. Anybody else want to add something?
I would have to say for me, data was a big part of me getting things to transform when I was a library media specialist. I was a public librarian. I was an elementary, middle, high school, and now a coordinator. But my heart always still resides with me being a library media specialist and all the trials and tribulations and the challenges of trying to get resources for my library. But the biggest thing that I think was most impactful was the data I fought everything with data. You couldn't argue against the numbers. And, I've gotten a 3D printer, I've gotten a color printer, assistant, library books, the books for book clubs, just the furniture, technology, computers, just because of the data. So don't underestimate the power of numbers.
That's true. And also I think, well, that you reminded me, in addition to data, also know how your administrators operate. So even though I had raised the money for the iPads, I did a formal proposal. I gave the rationale, how much it was going to cost. It wasn't going to cost them anything because I had already done the fundraising. But I knew, and I reached out to the director of technology and our business manager. And so just being really clear and upfront to explain, like, why, what's the purpose for this? And doing that made it just paved the way. They couldn't really say no, and it worked, and it was great.
I found also that doing a newsletter was effective also. And in the newsletter, just kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying, I used to add standards to my newsletter, just so people get an ideal, teachers get an idea what it was I was teaching if they were not sure sometime of the role of the media specialist. They'll see me highlight a teacher that I was working with and connecting their standard as well as a library standard to the newsletter.
That's a great point. Anywhere that we have a community notes that goes out every week, and we have a Rumsey on the Run, that's a school-wide newsletter. So I'm always putting stuff in there so they know what's going on in the library. It's not a secret. And it just, everybody's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that happens in that library. Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Hi. That's okay. The only thing I'll add is that I loved what you said about making sure the reports align with your school's mission. So DEI work is really important for our school. And so that's been a big focus in building the collection at my library. So I really love that Follett has the built-in data. You can run reports and it really will tease out and give you specific information about the books and the genres and the topics in your library. So that's been really helpful for us to see where there are gaps in different groups or different representations, so that we can make sure that we have a collection that really reflects our community and the community of the world. And I would just say that the diversity piece and using the built-in data reporting has been very helpful for me.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I did S'more for years. I did Google Slides as like a newsletter. I have not done it with Canva.
Huh. And I used
And I do.
Animoto for years, and I used Canva just the last couple years. So that,
Oh yeah. And I do love my Canva. You guys know.
yeah,
I saw that CLC uses it as infographics, and I really liked how they did that because they really just targeted about 4 or 5 things, like, and they really were very specific as to like almost like rate of return, how much they had spent, what they were able to do with it. And I like that. I thought that was a nice visual, something quick they could look at. But then I also think that something like that, then you should be able to like take it and kind of break it down a little bit more of like a kind of a report format. So that's what I wasn't sure. What is it? So it really is based on whatever you feel the administrator could use. What is their preference? All right.
right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
What's
you.
going to reach them the best way possible. And this discussion is also reminding me, I remember someone saying that personal stories from teachers, students is great to include, either video, whatever works for your school and your library. So it's always great to get testimonials.
I will say too, did anybody mention yet, like, the reason I keep an Instagram account is it's kind of like a diary of the year. So whenever something's going on, if I snap a pic and put it up there, I can then incorporate all those images into my end of year report.
Great point.
That is a great point.
I just keep mine. I just take pictures and I pop them into Google Drive folders by month. And then this is actually the first year I'm having a student who's going to pull, I think, my end of year video together, and she'll just do it by month. And I tried to label things so that she knew what to put in. So we'll see. But having a system that works to make your life easier, so you're not like, ugh. Because many years I was like, oh no, how do I pull this together? Okay. Other questions out there? Comments?
I'm trying to think, how can we get AI to help us write these? Wouldn't that be nice use for AI?
Right. If you ask it to write, but well, you still have to input all your data, right? So I don't know. Somebody try it and let us know. Yeah, right. You could have it design an info if you want to do an infographic, right? Design an infographic. It'll organize all the information for you. Definitely. So, should we pull in our slides? We don't have a lot. Okay. If I remember how to do it. I'm just going to pull in let's see. Can you see that? Okay. Now I don't know if it's, okay. We'll start at the beginning. So we're in Let's Library. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll publicize this a little bit too. We're trying to get together. It'll be a Let's Library book club sometime in July, in conversation with Sarah Kelly Johns and Susan Ballard, to try to get them. They're all in favor of it, so hopefully they will join us. And we got to find a place. I think in Northwestern Connecticut, they said. So we'll find a place to meet. Oh, and I also pulled in some information. I forgot. See, I did this over the weekend. I just pulled out some bullet points from their book, Having a Communications Plan. Who are the people that you're going to share your information, your end of year report with, right? Your parents. I'm not going to read this to you, but you're thinking about your parents, your learners, other educators, principals and other administrators, school board members. And I'm at a private school, so we don't have school board members. We have trustees. But, think about all those people that are going to see your end of year report or video or infographic or whatever it is that you're creating. So you can look at that. And I like this quote: consider what your target audience need to know and the specific characteristics of the persona stakeholders in your learning community as you build your communications plan. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I haven't done this in a long time. it was kind of fun. Like when you've been at a place for a long time, I haven't looked at these in forever. So looking back at like my first year videos, like, oh my gosh, how much, but I also felt like I kind of missed the old Val DiLorenzo school librarian. I had so much energy, and did so much. So I don't know. Should I play one of these? Okay. Let's do, this is my first. Can you hear it okay? Or do I have to click on something? Could you hear it okay? Oh, okay. So okay. Let's try that. And if you can't hear anything, it's just background music. There's no people speaking or anything. So we'll do.
But they can't hear my shout. Continue drifting through a mind that's full of smoke. I will escape the ash, causing me to choke. I don't want to start to fall. Every move I'll make tomorrow. Unless you can compete. There's 20 different fires burning in my head. If I was up to put them out, they certainly will spread. I don't want to waste the tomorrow. Every move I make tomorrow. Fireflies, fireflies, not gonna lay against the wall. I don't want to waste the tomorrow. Every move I make tomorrow. Fireflies, fireflies, not gonna lay against the wall.
Isn't it crazy? Right? I know, that's what I figured. I'm like,
Remember Gogster.
right? Remember?
Yeah.
Crazy. So, yeah, I guess I have to reshare now. Let's see. But yeah, it is fun to go back. And did you see how I put in my data? Like, there was 92 classes where I was closing up the library.
I love that data part you put in.
And I haven't done that very well lately. So I need to get back on that, since COVID, right? Like everything's weird. This, I don't know if the library corporation, that's what this is. I got an email and I looked at this and it has it's a nice checklist. So we'll share this after, and it has, the checklist is pretty good of things like, oh yeah, I really should include that in my report. So, and it's free. So the link to it is right there. And did Christine? I don't think Christine joined us, right? Oh, she may not be able to attend, but feel free to review my ideas. Okay, so she's got an infographic here. Always prepares an annual report for her principal, tries to summarize previous projects, set up my goals for the following year. This was her annual report from last year. She was wrapping up, adding lots of new nonfiction to the collection, also setting up this year's goals, which was a massive weed, and more time in my schedule to collaborate with teachers. Estimated value is good to include for insurance purposes should something happen to the collection. Tip from Barb Johnson. And she used Canva for design. So that's our last. Yeah. Okay, so great. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I also I always try to like add on like something that's coming next year. It's always like look for when we were getting a reading bike. Oh, look for the reading bike next year.
Yeah.
And there's something else.
Good.
What about adding like the age of the collection, like certain percentages of it too, just so that they're aware of the fact that you might need an update in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever your learning management system is, or your library management system is, they usually have webinars or recorded webinars that you can go and just find an hour and watch it. And I could always learn things on like, oh my gosh, I could do that. Oh, I could get statistics on that. So it's always good to do. And it's really helpful when we have new faculty before the next year. I always show them the previous year's video just so that they get a sense, because we could just sit there and drone on and on about all the stuff that we could do, right? Or you can show, and they'll be like, oh, wait, what's that? And then that gets them asking questions too. So, yeah.
I think also if you add things that are non-library also, and let them know also that on top of all the great things I'm doing in the library, I'm still part of whatever school business or testing. I mean, I've been a proctor. I mean, some of the roles that we take on that are non-library, I think it's important for them to know that too. Yeah, a lot. Right.
And so make note of that, right? Because you were subbing, therefore the library was closed. And in this world, we can't have a closed library. A kid maybe wanted to come in and check a book out, and that's really important stuff. So, okay.
Yeah, I had an issue at my library where we were with just two of us, and if one took a day off, you had to take a break for lunch or for your preps, and it had got to the point where they thought the library was closed too much. So I had to like run data. I started just collecting data. The other thing that I did every time we had to close the library, I had created this form to send to whichever administrator to sign off, so they knew exactly when that library was going to be closed. And from that, they did wind up putting teachers that will come in and sub during that time. But it's like they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
We have to bring it to life for them.
Great point. Well, so I've never done an inventory. I've weeded, weeded. And then yeah, that's right. And I've been listening to a lot of Amy Harmon podcasts, School Librarians United lately. And of course, after I bought a new picture book browsing shelf, because my picture books were so jam packed. And my previous assistant had an MLS, so she went through and weeded, but I just can't get rid of anything else. I really just needed another. And then I listened to like her podcast about weeding, and it was like, don't buy another shelf because you should. And I was like, oh, whoops. But oh well. But I can't get rid of a ton that I would have to get rid of. So bad librarian.
That's why inventory is important.
Well, I've gotten rid of tons, believe me. Thousands of books since I've been here.
That's a challenge. Yeah, that's a challenge. A huge challenge because we had weeded about 13,000 books from my collection when I was at the high school level.
Wow.
And it was the problem. We had boxed them up. The district provided boxes, but then it got to the point of, okay, so what do we do with them? So the lady who was the director at the time, she did find some organization that shipped books to Africa. And what was so funny about it was so many books they sent a van. The van tires start to deflate one of the tires because they underestimated how many books we had. And it was so many. But that's always an issue, even till this day, what to do with the books.
Way back when I first started here, I can't remember the name of the company, but literally I used to fill up with boxes of books a Rumsey bus and I would drive. It was over near the airport, I think. And I would drive it over there and I would drop them off. And we ended up making like $600, but then they stopped doing that. Like, but I couldn't believe it. So it was just me driving the bus over. And there had to be like 60 boxes of books that, you know, and we ended up making some money, but they don't do that anymore. So, any other questions? Or, it's a beautiful day and we're all so busy. I'm okay to wrap this up if you all are.
I was curious. I was curious if your libraries stop holding classes, and if so, at what point in time do you stop holding classes so that you can conduct inventory and run reports?
Right to the end.
Wow, West Hartford gets a full week. The elementary libraries close a full week, and principals fight it every single year.
Wow,
West Hartford
that's
gets a week.
amazing. That's awesome.
Nope, teach right to the end.
Yep. Right. Right. Yep. 2 weeks.
Thank you. I did. I am the teacher librarian at King School in Stamford. I work with, it's an independent school, yep, and I work with pre-K through grade 5, and it is my 5th year as a librarian.
Mhm. Well, it'll be in we can check because you registered. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
In Stanford.
Okay. No worries. All good. Thank you. All right. Sounds
And
good.
Lee, I'm curious, are you on the Castle listserv or did you get this from the Connecticut Association of Independent Schools listserv? Do you remember?
That is a great question, because that was one of the other things that you talked about, collecting data. So I don't have any parent volunteers. I don't have any assistant at all. And I do teach each class. So I have about 13 classes. Plus, I also this year helped out with the science research class. So I was probably more about 18 classes that I had. We have a collection, about 12,000 books. The library was very outdated and not really well kept. They didn't have a librarian for years.
Yeah.
So it's been very exciting because they renovated the space, and I've been able to help really renovate the collection. It's a great school and great administration. So I'm super grateful for all of that. But with respect to hiring extra staff, it was a very full stop of no, we're not going to do that. But then the recommendation was, listen, why don't you try to gather data from local independent schools and
Mhm.
see what their staffing is like, and that might help, your case. I'm hoping next year to kind of reduce my load a little bit as far as the science research classes. And, after we've been able to actually map a curriculum out, I'm hoping to have like more time to actually dedicate to the space and to create programs and to do really fun events. And, really, Willette, I think you talked about like, your heart is, at that, that's the heart of the work. That's the work that I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
So I've been missing a little bit of that because we've really been doing a lot of administrative work of really trying to create the program. So
Right.
I know, and I'm not even. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. That's
Years.
exactly what we're doing. So you asked me that question, and I think at one point in time I was on a listserv. So I got this. Hold on, I'm answering your question without looking back at my email.
So I'm so
Um,
curious because I get these messages from the case librarians listserv, and it'll say, we may not send this out because it's too much data or something. And I'm like, and then I never hear back. So I'm like, well, did it get posted or didn't it? And I don't get the message.
Right.
So I
Sorry,
always
I'm opening it now. I'm looking for it in my inbox. But I think it was the Connecticut Association. The CASL, Connecticut Association
oh,
of
that's
Libraries.
cancel. Okay, so I don't think it went through case at CAIS. I don't think it went through.
So
Interesting.
what's the other one?
So the Connecticut, it's called Librarians at Connecticut Association of Independent Schools. I'd have to.
So I think Kim Klein, our new middle school, upper school librarian, I think she's on that listserv, and I think I was originally on that listserv. So I moved from California, and I know that I was originally on that listserv or somehow got on it. Maybe I let my membership expire because I did put in the listserv a question about curating resources for our grade 5 Egypt unit, and I got great information back. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I used my California listserv.
So this one is So this one is librarians at lists.caisct.org.
Yeah, I don't have that. So how do I sign up for that?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm signed up for it too, because I never see anything, but no, I am signed up. I think if you just, here, I'll put it in.
Yeah, will you put it in the chat? That would be great.
Chat.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn as much as I can without overwhelming myself.
Because your message to librarians awaits moderator approval. So, and I never got an answer back. So and they were like kind of restarting it when I reached out. So I'm not sure how active it is, but
Thank you. That's great.
And I did put together a spreadsheet with all like the CAIS schools, and I started putting names, but I needed to find email addresses that like not